This is the combined meeting of the Pine-Richland School District. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Ms. Misbach?
Here.
Mr. Kashani?
Here.
Dr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. DiTullio?
Here.
Mrs. Goebel?
Here.
Dr. Meyer?
Here.
Dr. Mihalik?
Here.
Mr. Moy?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now have our first recognition of visitors. If anyone would like to address the board, they may do so at this time. There'll also be an opportunity at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. Staff and student recognition, Ms. Hathaway.
Thank you. Seniors Kenzie Wolf and Victoria McCarthy earned regional full key awards in the 2019 Scholastic Art Competition. Judges will now consider their artwork for national recognition. Thank you. Their work will be displayed through February 23rd. Ninth grader Erin Fortune earned second place in the piano at the Golden Classic Music Awards International Competition. She'll perform in New York City at Carnegie Hall on March 5th. Senior Tara Douglas was recognized at the Martin Luther King Jr. Day Writing Awards celebration at Carnegie Mellon University on January 21st. She earned a Best in Schools award for her personal reflection. A.W. Beatty Career Center is naming junior Annalie Demetris and sophomore Zachary Early Students of the Month. They earned the recognition from December to January in the Pastry Arts program. Air Force Junior ROTC cadets earned more than a dozen awards at the Marion Center High School competition on January 12th. Some of the top awards included first place finishes in the JV arm drill competition commanded by Cadet Kyle Kimoto, JV color guard commanded by Cadet Maddie Howard, and varsity unarmed drill commanded by Cadet Mike Dye. Maddie also earned first place in JV knockout competition, and Arden Webster earned first place in the varsity knockout competition. The high school competitive cheerleading squad competed at nationals in Orlando this past weekend. The team placed fourth at the state championship competition, so congratulations. Also, the National Federation of State High School Associations named high school head football coach Eric Kasparoja Coach of the Year, and two back-to-back WPIAL championships in 2017 and 18. The Pine-Richland High School boys varsity basketball team earned section championship title. The WPIAL pairings will be announced Tuesday night. Senior player Dan Petcash marked an incredible high school milestone of scoring 1,000 points. The Pine-Richland wrestling team earned fourth place in the Allegheny County Wrestling Tournament on January 18th through the 19th. Sophomore Megan Donnelly was one of only 18 across the U.S. to be selected to represent the U.S. Youth Soccer Developmental Program in Germany in April. As we've been sharing with you a board appreciation, the district has been sharing some scenes from student productions to highlight how learning is taking place inside the classroom and also outside the classroom on stage. Tonight we have, I'd like to introduce Thespian Society sponsor and teacher John Dolphin. He brought some student cast members from Peter and the Starcatcher. Mr. Dolphin?
Thank you, Mrs. Hathaway. Hi. My name is John Dolphin. I'm the sponsor of the International Thespian Society, which produces the fall play, and the director of the fall play. So since the fall play is kind of a student-run thing, okay, so let me bring out our production manager, okay, McKenna, and let the kids show you what they do.
Hi, I'm McKenna Exline. I am the production manager of the fall play and the president of our International Thespian Society that we have here at the high school. Some of the cast members would like to introduce themselves.
My name is Seamus Daniello. I'm a senior, and I'm playing Black Sash.
I'm Maya Pantanowitz. I'm a sophomore, and I'm Smee.
I'm Rodolfo Daniel Martinez. I am also a sophomore, and I am Lord Astor.
I'm Brandon Pierce. I'm a senior, and I am Captain Robert Falcon Scott.
So I would like to share a short story with you all of how this year's play became to be. If you guys would like to set up for your scene while I do this. So at the end of last year, Mr. Dolphin told me that he thought he found a show for this year. That would be a challenge in every aspect. He said he wanted to take us on a journey to a whole new world, to Neverland. My first thought was, yes, we're finally doing Peter Pan, until he stopped me mid-sentence and said Peter and the Starcatcher. At first, I didn't know what that was, but then I read the script and realized that the story of Peter and the Starcatcher is greater than the story of Peter Pan, because it is all about personal growth and how Peter Pan became Peter Pan, the one we all know and love. The show was announced at our annual International Thespian Society banquet at the end of last year. The production team began to prepare over the summer, and all of our teams worked together to bring together every creative and business aspect of the show, and all of our ideas were brought to life. The cast was given parts, and rehearsal began. After a few months of hard work, it was opening night, and all the challenges we had faced to get there no longer mattered. Each show got progressively better, and by the curtain call of the last show, every person involved had a tear in their eye, because it was now time to say goodbye to this amazing story. So we wanted to take a moment and say thank you for letting us share a part of our journey with you here tonight. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to be so engaged with the story of Peter and the Starcatcher. Now some of the cast would like to perform a scene set in the captain's cabin.
We shift our attention now to the other ship, barreling due south at a brisk 12 knots. That fine British frigate?
The Wasp, where Molly's father, Lord Astor, has been ushered roughly below deck.
Captain Scott's cabin, your lordship. Do come in.
Hopefully cramped for our captain's quarters.
No frills on a frigate, sir.
Where's the captain, Lieutenant?
I'm the lieutenant. I told a lie.
Unthinkable. British never lie.
Well, pirates do.
I demand to see Captain Scott.
Well, why didn't you say so? Presto? Scatter!
How dare you, sir? Release this man.
I'll take the key to that treasure hunt of yours.
You'll have to kill me first.
You were going to kill you second, but I'm flexible.
What are you playing at?
Pirate suit? Does the Wasp know a pirate ship? Your British crew is in chains below.
But there haven't been pirates in these parts for over 100 years.
We've been keeping it very low for a while.
You're the captain, I suppose.
Aye, sir?
Aye, sir. You, sir.
Oh, no, sir, not me, sir.
Me, sir?
That's me, sir, but no captain, I, sir.
You lie, sir.
Oh, no, sir, the devil himself's in charge of your belts.
The devil, you say?
The Prince of Darkness? Our satanic supervisor? Foul and nasty with a glowing hook?
And how would one identify him in a crowd?
By his legendary cookie duster, that's how.
Whiskers?
By his celebrated mouth brow, that's how.
And does he have a name?
The pirate captain they call Blackstaff!
Hello! Oh, to be in England's now April's there. But whoever's not in England gets to see my facial hair. Now you're probably wondering, can the fellow before you be entirely healed? Can no compassion uncrease his furrowed brow? Well, fret not, mon frere. I'm a romantic. There's a poet in these pirate veins, and so I plug into the muse. But what to do? Which style to use? Iambic and box office poison. Haiku? No, samurai would think so. Mind the cuticle, Shmi. Got it. The pirate with scads of panache wants the key to the trunk with the cash. Now here's some advice, though I seem to be nice. I'll cut you, slice you up, one side and down, so you can watch your own stomach fall off on the deck. Shmi, you did explain to my lord that I am a bloodthirsty outlaw.
I captain, but he still wouldn't give up the key.
We haven't got all day, Shmi. People have paid for nannies and parking. Step aside. I'll have to do it. Or I'm not. What am I?
Blackstaff!
They refer, of course, to this. The trademark nose brush of every man, woman, and child, dating right back to the amoeba. Yet for us, the face foliage has been so much more than a lawn on the lips, sir. 'Tis what we are, and why we are it. And when everyone got out of the pirate business, the stash stuck it out, knowing that one day our ship would come. This is the day. This is the ship. Now cough up that key, my lord.
Not a chance, you spam-faced tool there.
Oh, is that my lord's coat you're holding?
Looks to be about your size, captain.
What's the well-dressed tool bag is wearing this season?
So call me Alpha, Captain Siberi. Call me Alpha.
I'd say, Shmi, what is it the men call me on the ship?
Nancy, sir.
No, the other.
Ruthless, sir. Ruthless, heartless, and fearless.
Guilty as charged. Now give us the key.
Never.
Playing games is for children, Aster, and I hate children. Bring it in. The Wasp is my ship now, including everything aboard it, and this trunk Queen Victoria thinks nobody knows about. Stupid old Queen.
God save her.
Queen?
God save her.
Victoria.
God save her.
Banana.
God.
Oopsie. Now here's two things. When I open this trunk, I will be the single most significant pirate in the world, in history and other places yet to be discovered.
That's only one thing.
The second thing is a dilemma. The Cadillac Escalade of dilemmas. For I hear your darling daughter is on another ship on a safer southern route to Rundu, aboard the Naval Nerd.
The Neverland, sir.
Huh?
The Neverland, sir.
Same letters, Naval Nerd, Neverland. I was pretty close. Splitting rabbits, really.
Hair, sir.
Oh, splitting hairs, that's it. Oh, one more thing, though. I hear that you love your darling daughter more than diamonds. Let's say we stop by her ship in a little detour, and you can watch her die. Unless you're feeling a bit more amenable. Ooh, I love your ascot. But what's in your pocket? Diamonds and duster, kippers and custard. We have the keys, boys.
Thank you. Thank you guys very much. Thank you so much. Great job. Tremendous. Thank you for arranging that. And Rachel, thank you for that litany of achievements that our students are accomplishing. Correspondence, Ms. Williams.
None's been received.
Thank you. Item 1.05 is a motion to approve the minutes as listed.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.01, staff services. Ms. Gold.
Item 2.01, personnel. The motion to approve personnel and supplemental items as attached.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mrs. Goebel, if I could, I just want to, again, congratulate Mr. Zimmerman. He is here tonight, and welcome you to Pine-Richland. He brings with him both a military and professional background. He's been in facilities for almost the last 20 years. Is from Western Pennsylvania. We look forward to bringing him onto the team here. So congratulations, Mr. Zimmerman. And I'd like to also, even though Gary is not here tonight, and we will have a retirement evening for Gary, wanted to share just a few thoughts and factoids that I thought are pretty amazing. So we're celebrating 60 years. Gary Zhang has been here for half of that time. When he retires, he will bring 30 years of service to the district. So in that first year, we had about 1,800 students at Pine-Richland. We have about a little more than 4,600 students today. There have been 7 superintendents at Pine-Richland, including me. He's worked for 5. And can you imagine how many board members and other administrators and principals over those years? Gary Zhang was here when the high school was built in '93, and the addition in 2000, and the addition in 2012. When that occurred, he was a part of the old Richland High School, now Richland Elementary School renovation. We have, believe it or not, renovations to Hants in '98. We have the middle school renovations in '98. If you walked into Hants today, you see a building and you can't believe it's been over 20 years since it's been renovated. It's a beautiful facility, incredibly well maintained. Eden Hall in 2008. A stadium was built. The new turf was replaced, the track was replaced, the visitor side concession was expanded. All of these things have happened since Mr. Zach has been here. Gary invented why knowledge management is important for organizational excellence, because he literally has been here to live the growth and development of our district. And one of the gifts that Gary will bring to us, that Mr. Zimmerman will have the opportunity to begin to understand and learn about, is a capital funding plan of incredible detail. There are not, to my knowledge, K-12 school districts anywhere that have a 10-year capital plan in the amount of detail that we have mapped for 10 years. Part of the reason for that was continuous improvement. Part of the reason for that was also capturing some of that knowledge awareness of Mr. Zhang as he was preparing for retirement. So congratulations and welcome. In addition to the buildings, will be those opportunities to form relationships with the staff, both in the custodial and maintenance department, but in the district as well. The students you see tonight are very much a reflection of the students that we have at Pine-Richland. We're incredibly proud of them, and whether it's in the Thespian Society, and even some of our senior leaders have experience in that area, or it's in athletics, or it's in the classroom. We are truly blessed with the students that we have here. So thanks, Mrs. Goebel, and welcome, Mr. Zimmerman. And it would be fine to leave at this point. So thank you for being here. Congratulations.
Okay, item 2.02 is a motion to approve the student teacher listed below.
Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 2.03, first reading of miscellaneous 200 series policies. It's a motion to approve as a first reading the miscellaneous 200 policies as attached and listed below. Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 2.04, updated procurement attachment to policy 626 of federal fiscal compliance. It's an information item. I don't know if Dana, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. This is really just an annual update. Every January, we receive updated bid guidelines and written quote guidelines. By revising this attachment, we're able to ensure that our federal policies match to our regular policies as well as the state guidance. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Item 3.01, strategic plan quarterly update.
This update is attached. It is in some detail. We write it narratively so parents have the opportunity, staff members have the opportunity to review it on their own. So I'm not going to talk through each area, but just, again, reinforce that quarterly we provide this kind of update on what we call key initiatives. And it becomes a key initiative if the scope of that work really touches deeply across the organization or has a significant cost associated, and that's cost either financially or cost in terms of time investment by our staff. Are there any questions on the update? Okay, thank you.
Item 3.02 is an update on the school board strategic plan goals. Just an update for the public because we were all there on February 4th. The board is 10+1 met in a workshop. We accomplished a lot of things, but probably the primary outcome was to further refine a set of goals that we can incorporate and own as part of the new strategic plan of 2019 through 2023. There's sort of three broad categories, and the outline is contained there for the public. I just want to thank everyone for their participation in that workshop, the effort that was put through, and the thoughtfulness. I think I like where we're at with these goals. I think we discussed in some detail how they tie in and fit strategically with other elements, which is the published strategic plan. that we've developed. So I'm very proud of the work. Obviously, next steps are to begin to fill in the details and the bullet points that go underneath it, and to do the continuous work to accomplish this set of objectives. I'm very proud of where we're at. If anybody else would like to add anything, please do. And there's, of course, time to give additional input and refinement before we approve the final strategic plan. Thank you all very much for your contribution. Finance, Mr. Kashani.
Item 4.01. It's a motion to approve the financial reports dated January 31st, 2019, and accounts payable dated February 11th, 2019, in the amount of $427,443.13, and paid accounts for January, February in the amount of $5,196,029.20 as listed.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4.02 is a motion to approve the budget transfers in the amount of $91,387 as attached.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to just bring something to the awareness of the board. So 21,000 or so of that 91,000 is for what, the last payment, Dana, to pay for new football uniforms? Correct? And I don't want to dwell on this, but is it possible to get the total amount that we spent on the uniforms? Some other, not
Sure,
now.
we can provide that to you.
And Mike, just if I may ask, because I believe you looked into what happened here before Mr. Shoup left. Can you just so that we're aware of what happened? I think it's important because uniforms were purchased outside of our purchasing system, and the administration wasn't aware of it. And it's kind of surprising that happened. So I guess, what did you learn, and if you can just enlighten us?
Well, there was from what we understand, a conversation would have been probably summertime, early fall, about the purchase of additional football uniforms between the athletic director and the head coach. And at that point, really without communicating to us, reached out to the company to determine cost for purchasing uniforms, and talked to the company is what we understand, and there was an agreement that there would be, it was when you purchase 2 uniforms, get 1 set of uniforms for free. So one of those sets of uniforms was delivered prior to the payment, and was actually used for this season. So obviously once they were used, we knew we would have to pay for those uniforms. So once Dana found out about the invoice, worked with the company and made sure we paid that immediately. Then we continued the investigation to see why it was not discussed, was not budgeted for, and really didn't get much of an explanation at all. And then looked into sending the other 2 sets of uniforms back because they were customized. That wasn't an option. So we made the recommendation to pay for those uniforms, and then Dana has it clearly identified in our budget as obviously outside of our process.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And do we know why this was done outside our purchasing system?
No, I can't say I have. I have a reason for that. When I spoke to the coach about need, and said if that request would have been a no, would we have been able to participate and use the current uniforms that we had in the past? His statement to me was that would have been fine. We would have been able to, obviously conduct our season and use our old uniforms. So I did reach out to the last athletic director and did not get a response back multiple times.
Okay, thank you.
I hope our current AD understands that's not our expectation.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time talking about, we have a lot of processes that we've worked on over time, and they're only as good as the implementation, and that's something we've been reinforcing. Yes.
Thank you. I thought it was important for everyone to know that.
Item 3.03, actually, did we? I don't think we have.
We did not.
Yeah.
Voted yet.
You have a second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.03, transfer funds. Mark? Sorry.
Yes, 4.03. Motion to authorize online banking and ACH services with Next Year Bank and to authorize the transfer of $1,500,000 from the PNC Bank governmental checking account to the Next Year money market account in the general fund.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
And item 4.04. The Finance Committee met prior to this meeting, and Mr. Tony Masidi provided an update, general market update, as well as we discussed a number of bond refunding candidates. And there is a candidate for us to consider currently, and we'll talk more about that at the April meeting, which is scheduled for April 8th at 6 o'clock. It's a joint Finance and Staff Services Committee meeting. But at that time, we'll be able to discuss some options that we'll have for that refunding, and if it still looks favorable, we can bring it to a vote in the general meeting. I think also we wanted to spend some time now, just 2 minutes, I believe.
We're going to count Mark's time.
90 seconds. Dana, if you would, maybe just to give us an update on the general fund budget.
Sure. There are 2 attachments in public content for line item 4.04. Essentially, the budget is still in process. The operational line items are detailed and have come from the buildings and departments. The personnel budget is still somewhat based on trends, and we're working our way through the detail of all of the employees by collective bargaining group. The budget currently has a deficit of about $1.5 million, but one important point to note is that our capital funding plan is increasing by about $1.7 million for next year, for a total of a little bit more than $4.3 million. We are still working with different vendors, for example, a roof consulting vendor that was just recently approved by the board to solidify some of the larger projects within the capital funding plan. At the April meeting, we will have some more finalized numbers in terms of personnel. That's, again, another reason why that committee meeting is Finance and Staff Services.
Thank you. Wonderful. I think that was 90 seconds.
Thank you, Dana. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Academic achievement. Dr. Meyer.
Item 4.01 is an informational item, and I am going to turn this over to Dr. Silva and Dr. Pasquinelli.
I'll take just the first part. Just a board update in terms of our process for reviewing curricular resources. So as you recall, we mentioned back in the beginning of the school year about resources we are evaluating this year. So that's K-12 health, AP environmental, astronomy, honors anatomy, AP statistics, and business calc. So we're in second round of evaluations. We'll have that data here in February. So the next event that's going to happen here for community is the first week of March. As we've done in the past, we put the top 2 items on display for community and student feedback. So we'll be working with Rachel here in a couple of weeks to put that communication out and invite the community to come out. We've talked to some teachers. They'll bring their classes down and get some additional feedback on our top 2 choices. And then in terms of board updates, we'll be back talking about this in April and ask for your approval to put our top choices on display for 30 days. And then the final motion for purchase is scheduled for May 20th. That provides us an opportunity to make the purchase and then schedule the professional development for our staff the first week of June.
And in terms of the second item, the asset science kits, we were notified in January that asset science is taking a new direction in terms of their business model. So they are switching to professional development provision only and ceasing the provision of the kits that they had given us in grades K through 5 annually in terms of the durables and consumables that would come. And it was a kind of a shared library among area districts. So we have some options, and we actually were working with our teachers already on alignment of curriculum to the Next Generation Science Standards and PA Science Standards as a part of the in-depth program review recommendations. So we were in the process of looking at the tools that we had in our hands and making sure they were best aligned to the curriculum. So it's a great time for it to occur if it was going to, not necessarily on the timeline that we would have preferred. However, we'll be able to, on the heels of this other curricular resource review, begin an expedited process for that as well, to have materials for our teachers at the beginning of next year. The kits actually had sourced from vendors like Foss, so if we decided to go with those items, we could get them directly from those vendors ourselves. However, there are additional products out there that are worth a look, especially with the alignment to the standards. So we're going to take a look at that and make the best of the situation.
Thank you.
Buildings and grounds, Mr. DiTullio.
Item 6.01 is a motion to approve Eccles Architecture to complete the design and bid specifications for exterior window replacement, restroom renovations, exterior improvements at Richland Elementary, and to approve Eccles/Tower Engineering to conduct assessment of the HVAC controls at Richland Elementary at a total cost of $62,100.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 6.02 is a motion to approve Tower Engineering to conduct a study of the HVAC system at Pine-Richland Middle School at a total cost of $17,160.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 6.03 is a motion to approve the purchase of an electronic door lock system from Open Systems Pittsburgh and AB Specialist in the total amount of $18,064.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 6.04 is an informational item, and it's for consideration at the March, oh, well, it just changed on me, I'm sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. Item 6.04 is for board consideration at the March planning meeting. Motion to approve a proposal from Johnson Controls to perform an internal obstruction testing and repair to the fire sprinkler system heads as attached. Any discussion on that? All right. Item 6.05 is also an informational item, and I think I might turn this one over to you, Dana, for some more details, or
I'll take it.
You got that?
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. DiTullio. So we have been talking about this item for several months, and in the fall, with a grant opportunity to help offset the cost of testing, this is not an action item for the board, it's an informational item not only for the board, but also for the public. So a couple of years ago, what prompted sort of a trend nationally was lead in water, and different parts of the country faced different crises related to that. And some legislation here in Pennsylvania then required districts to either publicly discuss testing if it had occurred or retest. Although we had done lead in water testing, we made the decision and discussed with the board a desire to expand our preventative testing more broadly than the requirements, and also put in place a more proactive approach to testing. And that did not just focus in these areas, lead in water, lead in paint, indoor air quality, and radon, but even last year when we had, it was just last year, we had a couple of gas-related issues, one at the middle school and one at the high school. And so last summer, as an example, we did some proactive during the summer pressure testing of one of our primary schools, even to look at all of the gas lines and linkages and how things work. So this idea of preventative testing has been important, but took an even greater role. So what the public has here in this item, and we will also find a place on the Pine-Richland website where we can place preventative testing results, including what we have here, which is like an executive summary for each of those tests, followed by the actual results from the various tests in the schools. We will place that in a public location. Part of this process has included communications to the community. So we have sent communications out about lead in water when we receive the results. We've sent communications out about radon. Obviously, with the situation at hand in the fall, we communicated a great deal about what was occurring there and how we responded to that. So in terms of the lead and water, the update from Mr. Zhang, there were a few specific places where we needed to, through the maintenance department, replace fixtures or sprayers related to pieces of equipment. All of those equipment changes have occurred. Those items had been taken out of use. The retesting has been done, and we are waiting on the results. So again, out of many, many tests, there were a handful of items that needed to be replaced there. And again, that's reflected in the lead and water report. The lead and paint report requires no action, but it was done in those buildings depending upon the age of a building or wing. Indoor air quality is something that we test for often. So this particular test was a random sample of all 6 buildings and spaces within those buildings, about 45 random tests. We will do a similar random sampling type test often, so we will do that each year. We also test specifically in an area if we get feedback from parents or students or staff members about something in a particular school. So again, very familiar with indoor air quality, and the results of this round of benchmark testing again is that we're in good shape. Radon was the last area included here, and we had, again, significant amount of good results with the radon testing. We did have 2 buildings, Hanson Eden Hall, where there were what I would call a pocket at Eden Hall in a cluster of 3 rooms, and there's a single room at Hance that had a more elevated level. We did a 48-hour retest of those, and then even though the levels were reduced, we made the decision through the companies that we were working with to mitigate that through that vent pipe fan system. So those were installed, and the installation was finished this past Saturday. We have a period of time that the companies recommend waiting, so that's like basically a week of time. Then we'll do a 48-hour test again in those spaces, but we expect that is relatively routine, that mitigation work will make an impact. So again, when those results are back, we will share those results publicly as well. There are some other spaces with very slightly elevated levels above the threshold. So later this month, we will then begin a 90-day monitoring, which is consistent with EPA guidelines. So the 90-day monitoring will, again, these are purchased kit, basically, test kits that will be in place for 90 days. We will then have a much clearer picture about those areas and any next steps. So we have discussed with companies, and Mr. Zhang's approach, which we support, is taking a systematic look at all of this, being very transparent in sharing information with the community, and then again going out from this point in sort of a cycle. So what we've indicated here is a time interval that varies based upon tests. So indoor air quality, that happens annually and will continue to happen annually and perhaps even multiple times a year. The lead in water, we will plan again for the summer of 2021. We will likely plan those tests to be conducted right at the end of the school year. We do that because then they're being used in their typical routine manner, but also the findings of any results, we can remediate any areas if they're found at that time prior to the start of the next school year. Radon is best tested for in the winter, and so we've identified December of 2020 for the next set of district-wide tests with radon. Again, I'm proud of the work of the team, Mrs. Hathorn, in terms of communication and how we've been able to work through this in, I think, a systematic manner. There are many places that don't test at all. We've gone above and beyond, which we think is appropriate to do to ensure we have safe, clean, effective facilities for our students and staff.
If I could just add a comment, so I want to thank the district for the work that went into that preventive testing. As you said, it's unusual for a district to do that amount of work. It just shows the value that you've placed on the health of the students and the staff here, that learning can't happen if people aren't healthy and in the right frame of mind. So the amount of effort you put into that is really commendable, and I thank you for that.
And I applaud the degree of transparency and disclosure, and I think our residents find it reassuring, and it builds trust. So
thank you.
Student Services, Dr. Campbell, please.
All right, item 7.01 is a motion to approve the student attendance and application of the Student Discipline Code for the girls lacrosse team to travel to Doylestown, PA, Friday, April 12th, Saturday, April 13th to participate in a game, and the cost of the district will be $624 for transportation.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 7.02 is a motion to improve the student attendance and application of the student code, registration, lodging, and transportation.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
How many students do you Depends how many qualify. It could be, let's see, 8 to 10 estimated.
Yeah, 8 to 12.
Or 8 to 12, sorry, 12, yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 7.03 is a motion to approve the attached revised list of student organizations and officers for the Pine-Richland High School for 2018-2019 in compliance with our policy number 618 for student account funds.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 7.04 is a motion to approve the updated memorandum of agreement to establish and operate the Air Force Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps unit as attached.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
For information purposes, previously approved trip to Dayton, Ohio by the Air Force Junior ROTC the dates have shifted slightly. They're going to leave on March 6th instead of 7th and return on the 9th instead of the 10th to better utilize the travel.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Item 7.06. Yep.
Oh, so that's right. There's no voting. It's information. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I was going to turn the next one over.
I was going to turn that over to Mr. P anyway. So yeah, for Dr. P. So. Do you want to say 7.06?
Yes. Thank you. And this is just a brief overview of some work we've been doing around a concept of Pine-Richland Athletic Hall of Fame. Wanted to give the board and community an update on this, and then our intentions are to bring this forward for a motion for approval at the March meeting. So we always kind of start with the why, and again, around the concept of being in our 60th anniversary and talking about opportunities to celebrate history. We think this is a nice opportunity to do just that. We always look for that link to our mission, vision, and values, and we believe that a Hall of Fame and Pine-Richland Athletic Hall of Fame would be a nice opportunity to see that link, and especially in our pride values where we talk about, you know, there's those direct links that happen there. We talk about learning inside and outside of the classroom quite a bit, and we see students experiencing those learning opportunities on the athletic fields, whatever those fields are. So we see value in this. So we've had a small group of administrators and community members working together to put some ideas together. So tonight is about sharing those ideas and listening to some feedback. Mr. McCurry's here. He is a community member. He served as an administrator for North Hills for quite some time. He's worked with us from his perspective in initiating something like this in a different district. Mr. Simmons, obviously, as the athletic director, has been heavily involved. He's over at a basketball game tonight, and Ms. Hathorn has been heavily involved as well. So we just kind of want to share some of our thinking around this. We see an opportunity as an induction class starting with this coming fall of 2019. We've talked about numbers, so you know, the recommendation of a maximum of 5 inductees per year, and you can see a description of those people or groups that we would be looking to induct. And again, really to get some community feedback on this, to look at that historical perspective of those athletes, of those coaches, of those contributors that have made a significant impact here at Pine-Richland. So in order to do that, we've talked about how do we do that? So developing a committee of different people, different perspectives, different backgrounds, and again, different experiences here at Pine-Richland around athletics. So part of the process would be building this committee of people that would be evaluating these applications for nominees and then making the recommendation on an annual basis for inductees. And that's just a breakdown of what that committee group could look like with the director of athletics overseeing that, that group. In terms of a timeline, what we believe would be appropriate is, again, tonight is an informational opportunity to receive board feedback and hear community feedback. Again, the plans are to make a motion for approval at the March meeting and then start initiating some communications out to our community, and that would elicit, again, those that are interested in participating as the part of the committee that would be evaluating those nominations, and then putting out some additional communications and ask for those to be nominated. If that plays out, then we're looking at a spring, summer process for that selection committee to get together and make those recommendations for the first class, which would be, again, the fall of 2019. We talked about cost associated with this, so we really we want to make it an appropriate special event, but keep appropriate restrictions on those costs as well. So you see we've put a maximum dollar figure and plan to pay for that through some of that revenue that we generate through advertising. We use our scoreboards as an example. So Mr. Simmons now is actively working to try to identify a fourth company that can help to offset some of these costs. And using things like our facilities, which again are wonderful facilities, using our partners as we celebrate these type of events, we feel like that's appropriate as well, because it really becomes a school district community celebration when we have those group of inductees on an annual basis. And I'd just like to thank again Mr. McCurry. He spent a lot of time coming out and working with us and our internal staff too. We've bounced ideas back and forth over a period of time, and this is where we are right now. We've got our bylaws written. Now we're just listening for additional feedback.
I'd like to add that I like the idea, and thank you for your time doing this. My only concerns would be ensuring that the alumni that are lifted up into this are, follow in adherence with the mission, vision, values of Pine-Richland. So I'd be concerned about whether the administration or board have oversight into who gets inducted, or in the unfortunate incident, do we need to remove someone from it because of bad behavior or something that comes to light. So I'd want to know that there's a mechanism in place to have some oversight of who is in the Hall of Fame and who remains in there. And also to note, we do have a Pine-Richland Hall of Fame right out here. We might want to revisit that also in conjunction with this as to the process for that, and whether we want to rekindle that and induct any more alumni into that general Hall of Fame to lift up more than just the athletic success of alumni, but also general success as well.
Great, and I appreciate that feedback. We do have language to your concern in the bylaws, so after we get the feedback, we'll make sure you get a copy of the details of the bylaws, and you'll see that language in there.
The Hall of Fame in the hallway, that was connected with Prof, was that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Facilitated through Prof.
And I know there was conversations at the time, but that has never, they're looking more at, yes, so there has been conversation.
Prof has, as you know, has a list of priorities, so that kind of, they've moved some other things up the chain.
Right.
So.
Right. But that's always the thought, so.
Yeah, 60th anniversary would be a good time to induct, another set of alumni in.
What sports will be eligible, i.e. club sports like lacrosse or row, things like that? Are they also going to be eligible and brought into this as well?
Yeah, we had, again, it's those that have made significant contributions. So again, they are athletes, they are coaches that are linked to Pine-Richland, they are community members, contributors in any way. So,
but I guess what I'm asking is, I don't want to see something that's just dominated by, let's say, baseball, football, basketball.
Right.
There are some fantastic athletes that are rowers and ultimate frisbee, and again, sports that I may not necessarily know enough about. I want to make sure that if they're not a mainstream sport, they're not left out.
We do not have restrictions to funded versus partially funded to club.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Mr. McCarty, thanks for being here tonight. Thank you for your efforts in this regard.
And one more item on the item 7 here, 7.07, reminder that we have a joint Student and Staff Services Committee meeting on March 4th at 6 p.m. and we're likely going to be talking about class rank calculation, student activity fee, and the partially funded programs that we have for student programs.
Thank you. Operational Services, Mr. Moy.
Sure. Item 8.01, school start times. Motion to approve a shift in school start times beginning in 2019 and 2020 school year that include the high school, middle school at 7:45 a.m., Eden Hall at 8:35 a.m., and the primary schools at 9:20 a.m. Dr. Miller, did you?
Sure. Thank you. So this topic has been discussed a number of times over the last, I would say, 6 months, and studied over probably the last 14, 15 months. If I were to boil it down, it would be a question of, can we, as a school district, make an adjustment to the structure that we are used to in order to better support older adolescents, and one of the specifically around sleep and providing a structure that better supports that, given the wealth of literature that is there from the American Academy of Pediatrics and others. And the challenge of the process, if we lived in a vacuum of just one age group and there were no other constraining variables, it would be fine. But we don't. We work in a system. And the question is, can we, as a school district, provide some support to our older adolescents and at the same time minimize impact on the rest of the system, which in our case includes students at the primary level and the families that support them. The reality of public education and life in the year 2019 is our students have a lot of stressors and demands put on them. Students, we have diverse families at Pine-Richland. We may not understand that always, but we have students with significant needs. We have students who push themselves significantly. We have students that struggle to find balance, and sometimes that's a pressure that they put on themselves. Sometimes it's pressure that may be felt in the family or in the community in general. Sleep is only one part of that, and moving a school start time is only one part of that concept. There's an awful lot of other things that need to take place around health and wellness, but we believe structurally that after all of that time, this recommendation realizes a meaningful step for middle school and high school students. It minimizes the impact on primary students, and we believe it's an excellent step. It's one part of a bigger picture of how do we promote health and wellness and build that within our student body so that as our graduates leave Pine-Richland, that is a part of who they are.
Do a second on that?
We don't have it.
Thank you.
Right, second. Chris.
Any other discussion?
I was wondering if we could update the recommended action to show the current start times as well, and same with, you know, when this is put in notes and everything. So we're going from 7:20 to 7:45 a.m., from 8:30 to 8:35, and 9:15 to 9:20. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh. So 25-minute shift, 5-minute shift, 5-minute shift.
Correct.
Start time.
You want to put it right in the motion at the top? I thought the same thing when I first read it, and then I clicked
Yeah, in the recommended action. Yeah, right in the motion, just so it reflects the old and the new very clearly.
Are there any objections to that? Can we do that by claim? Okay.
I'll tell you, give me 1 second here.
Yeah. But then they would edit.
While it's being updated, just a couple other comments. There's been a lot of community feedback on this, and I've heard from some people saying, you know, well, it doesn't matter if I email the board, you know, they're just going to do what they want anyway. But we have, you know, read your emails, we've heard the feedback, we've been revising this and taking it into account. A lot of people are very much for the older kids having a later start time, but concerned about the pushback of the younger kids. And I think, you know, a 5-minute shift in the grand scheme of things here isn't that much to ask. It's not a, you know, but a 25-minute shift in the morning is a huge deal to these middle school and high school students. And those little kids who are taking that 5-minute shift now will benefit from that 25-minute shift when they get into middle school and high school. So I think, you know, the district's done a very good job of going back to the drawing board multiple times and reworking this and massaging this until they get to a place where it has as much impact as we can put upon the middle school and high school, and as minimal impact on Eden Hall and the elementary. And I'd encourage us, even as we go forward beyond this year, with growth of the district, with, you know, looking at as things change, you know, if we can even get those primary schools or the, you know, the 9:20 start time earlier if possible. If anything, you know, I'd like to see that as a long-term goal, to not push it back any further, and if anything, try to tighten it up even closer if we can find an efficiency we missed. And I'm really glad that there's been some talk on before-school activities with the Pine Community Center, and I'd like to keep looking at ways that we can offer low-cost before-school drop-off options for parents at you know, the primary schools and even the Eden Hall level, if possible. I think it's very important to have that option for parents with minimal cost to them.
I'll just comment that from the beginning I was not in favor of this until we listened to the community, until everything was changed. To mirror what Dr. Campbell said, I will tell you personally, for my family, and I may have one of maybe 10 students in the high school that this will not benefit, as my daughter with her needs is actually up very early, so this is actually a detriment to our family. But when we look at things like this, we have to look at it holistically, and we have to look at it as the whole of the 4,600 plus students. The vast majority will benefit, whether it's today, whether it's next year, or in 4 years. I will tell you, my older two students that are now in college are both upset that this is happening now versus then. But for us personally, it's not good right now. But for the whole district, I think this is a very good step. And I would like to say that as a step to, again, mirror what Dr. Campbell said. I think there is more that we can do. And when these kids go to college, it's a very different atmosphere. And I can tell you, my kids right now talk about a 9 a.m. class like it is before dawn. It's a very different step, and they are waking up at 8:58 to get to that 9 o'clock class. So again, I think it's a good first step, but I think that we need to keep in mind that this is a step in a journey towards what we're doing for the kids.
I'd like to chime in too. I moved into the district in 2014. I came from a district that had late start times for middle school and high school. I was appalled when I had to start to get my kids up at 5:30 in the morning. I have seen personally impacted my children with lack of sleep, with their workload, with the activities they're in. So I applaud us for taking the steps. With that said, I understand the concern and the difficulties that are facing our early childhood parents. But when I read the literature and I see the effect that the later start times have on adolescent learning, we cannot ignore it. There was a recent study in the eastern part of a state where even 10 minutes raises test scores. So by raising it, by moving it up 25 minutes, it is going to be a huge effect. On top of that, the pieces that we're talking about with anxiety and depression that we keep seeing more and more of in adolescents today because of the pressures of getting into schools that weren't there 20 years ago. And I would like to note that the data on school start time goes back decades. It is not just in the past 5 or 6 years. The school system I came with made the change in the early 2000s. So it's been around a long time. And to echo what Greg said, I work at a university. We do our darndest not to schedule kids at 8 o'clock. Because they're still adolescents when we get them in college. Adolescence lasts from 13 to 25. And that brain is still developing. And it does have an impact on brain development. And besides the first 2 years, adolescence is when the brain changes the most. So I think I want to applaud the district, but to echo, as the systems start to change in this area and more schools adopt this, because I think it will happen, there's just a tidal wave of data showing that we need to do this. I do encourage you to look and see when we don't have the complicities of the busing with the private schools and things like that, if there is a way to continue to make more steps. But I applaud you guys because I know this has been hard and I know this has been a lot of work, and I think we found a situation with minimal impact on our younger students, but a huge impact on our older students. But thank you for the hard work and the time.
And I will just say, I just echo all of that, not to take up time, but that I agree. And one mild thing is that I have been reading a lot on school start times, and it is happening across the country and even in our region. And it is happening, it's not even just with the data from research, it's also having a positive effect anecdotally from those administrators, from the students. So.
Absolutely, and I encourage us to continue to get the message out that this is one thing that families, teachers, our community need to focus on. I know in my home I will miss this brief 6 months where I got to see my son before I go to work, which is now gone for the rest of his high school career. I'm sure he won't miss it that much, but I can assure you his bedtime is not moving. So we'll take that half hour and bank it.
And for the residents who don't have children, this is a no-cost change. Am I correct? Like there's virtually or very small, little or no cost.
Yeah, it would be a small cost, and that's really a cost. It's not so much the transportation of Pine-Richland students within our 6 schools, but it's a trickle-down effect. And we serve 40 private parochial schools within a 10-mile border around the outside of our district. So we do anticipate small costs there. Again, estimates around $200,000 is what we've reported, but again, that's simulation, so that's the best we can put on the cost.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
Do you want me to read the motion for you?
Sure.
Just so everybody knows what it says. Motion to approve a shift in school start times beginning in the 2019-2020 school year that include high school, middle school from 7:20 a.m. to 7:45 a.m., Eden Hall from 8:30 a.m. to 8:35 a.m., and the primary schools from 9:15 a.m. to 9:20 a.m.
Second.
All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8.02, Act 80 application approval request. Motion to approve the application of an Act 80 exception for all PRSD students due to the occurrence of multiple weather-related cancellation days impacting the school calendar.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8.03, real estate litigation. Motion to approve a settlement agreement by and among St. Barnabas Land Trust, the Township of Pine, the Pine-Richland School District, and the County of Allegheny.
Second.
Any discussion?
Again, just thanking the administration for their efforts on this that we got here. Might not be exactly where we want to get, but I guess I could even shout out to you too, Pat. My partner, Howie.
It was. Gehring Rudder Beam has a deep bench, and we appreciate the efforts. I appreciate everyone's patience. These things take a little bit of time, so you have to adjust your clocks, and I'm glad we've gotten to this result. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
And item 8.04 is informational, 2019 and 2020 meal prices. For board consideration at the March 4th planning meeting, a motion to establish the following meal prices for 2019 and 2020 as presented below.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate that. I would note on that, I mean, we're still, post this increase, at the lower end of our self-identified peer group, and the board has consistently identified some small increases to keep ourselves from the bottom of that pack in order to support higher food quality. And I think we've established that linkage, so this makes sense from that perspective. Board business.
Sure, I'll take 9.01 because I would like to nominate Peter Lyons as the candidate for the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Board. He served since 16, and he's done an admirable job and would like to continue. And so a motion to approve Peter as the candidate for the AIU.
I'll second.
Thank you, guys. Thank you both. It's an honor to serve. It does bring a lot of value to my work here, connections and relationships, and perhaps most importantly, perspective. Mm-hmm. So I thank you for the opportunity to serve again.
You do need to vote.
Yeah, so should I do that?
Sure, Mark, call it.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Item 2.02 is a motion to approve the attendance of Ms. Christine Misbach at the 2019 Baldrige Examiner Training held in Gaithersburg, Maryland this April.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I think this is great.
It's awesome.
What we've learned from Baldrige, I want to learn more as a board member. I'm envious. I was going to say jealous, but I'm envious. I would love to be a part of this as well. This is, I hope we can continue to bring some of what Dr. Miller and now you, Christine, have at Baldrige and bring it back to us. I think this is just a great process. I think we can see clearly in what has happened in the schools with the strategic planning, with everything that we have processed and implemented. A lot of it stems from the Baldrige, I think. And its influence is definitely here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'll add to this This earns her about 35 to 40 hours of pre-work, followed by the days of training. So just as a note for those that aren't aware, so the examiner training experience, it's a process that's applied to a case study. And so along with a number of other examiners and training experience people from across the country, and a lot of the BETE come from around the world. She'll have an opportunity to experience that. We'll have an opportunity to talk about that. And I would also mention that we have Ms. Hathorn and Dr. Silva participating right now in examiner training in the regional program, the Mid-Atlantic Alliance. And so this is a 3-state area, similar process in the Baldrige framework. So we're excited about expanding that, and I'm sure she will have stories to share with the board when she returns. Or if the pre-work becomes too much, I don't know. No, I think she'll be fine. So thank you to all, and especially to Ms. Beck.
And I also believe this includes using your tab.
So I appreciate the investment in time, Christine, and I appreciate everyone else's commitment to professional education for the board as well. It's important, I think, we focus on that. It's the only way we're going to keep up around here anyway. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Item 9.03, I did mention earlier, so I won't go on it now. The board participated in a workshop on Monday, February 4th. I discussed the board goals. We also reviewed the Sunshine Law and the Employee Ethics Act and participated in team building. We also enjoyed a meal, compliments of Ms. Williams, and I want to thank her again for her extraordinary efforts to extend her hospitality when we have these special meetings. So, thank you.
If you're ever looking for
Reports.
That's 4,600 handmade chicken pot pies. Let's get started now. At the last meeting, we had a parent speaker who shared some articles with the board. One of those articles from the American Academy of Pediatrics was Children and Adolescents in Digital Media. And as we talked about school start times earlier, one of the topics that does come up are choices and really what the reality of life is for many young people today. There used to be a time when you turned off what happens at school, then you go to your activity or you go home and you play in your neighborhood or whatever. Right now we have situations where the majority of students are engaged with technology, and that is sort of, it becomes a part of the way they view the world. It is a part of the way they think. It's a part of the way they experience. There are benefits to that, and there are implications of that that can be negative. It was an excellent resource that the parents shared, but what I wanted to also share, coincidentally, is on February 21st, we have a parent workshop. And the session is aimed to help parents, provide parents with help in their children's social media use. We have had a number of these over the years. They are usually some of our better attended parent workshops. We have a lot of opportunities. It's not easy for families always to attend those opportunities. I want to say 5 years back it was the digital age, possibilities and pitfalls, because there are great things that happen with technology and there are significant concerns as well. So for any parents able to attend, we have a speaker coming in with expertise in this area, and we think that it'll be a very informative night. So again, I wanted to follow up on the article that the parents shared last meeting and the fact that it aligns nicely with a social media workshop coming up this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan.
So, yes, there is a flyer that's posted for A.W. Beatty Career and Technical Education Training Center. There's a spring open house on Thursday, February 28th from 5:15 to I think it's 8 p.m. it's a great opportunity to be able to see all that Beatty has to offer. So just it's there as an information item.
Thank you. And I did want to provide a little update from the Allegheny Intermediate Unit. I had the opportunity this week to attend a presentation by Governor Wolf and Lieutenant Governor Fetterman of their first PA Smart Grant, which is a program they announced last year based on the recommendations of the middle class task force to try to bolster workforce readiness and provide opportunities rather for the middle class throughout the state. And the IU had partnered earlier with the Penguins Foundation to establish a STEAM lending library whereby the IU provided training and the Penguins Foundation subsidized the cost of kits, and that could be a particular kit of iPads and programmable robots appropriate for lower elementary kids. And districts could come get that training and then bring those kits back to their school district to conduct a series of lessons and then return them so another school district could make use of them at the same time. That was the basis for this grant application that the IU lent their expertise to the Penguins Foundation, and it was awarded over $400,000 from the governor. So it was nice to see the attention given to the IU, nice to see the attention given to the region, and a public-private partnership that really does focus on expanding opportunity and expanding workforce readiness. So it was exciting, and it was nice to meet those folks. So
I didn't get it in time for the agenda, I apologize, but after our board meeting, I felt inspired. I want to start reporting back about the PSBA. And if you've been reading the updates this week, the big news is the budget. Does the board all get daily, Ms. Willie? Okay. And so I did some digging, because that's what I do. And it looks like if it passes as if, which we know it won't, it would be a $6.5 billion increase for basic education, which is nearly a $442,000 increase from last year. And I've talked to Diane to make sure this is correct as well. I did some more digging. That would mean about approximately a 3% increase for Pine-Richland. So what that really means is that would take the burden off local real estate taxes if we can increase state government. Am I correct in saying that? So if it so moves you, I encourage you to contact your local legislation or your House senators and state representatives and encourage them to pass this bill. The other piece of that, which will not have a direct impact on Pine-Richland, is the base salaries for teachers. But I do believe it affects Pine-Richland in the way that we've had less and less enrollment in teacher education programs, and they are predicting a teacher shortage in the next 10 or so years. And by creating a statewide base, the base would be $45,000 is what he's proposing. By creating a state base, it's going to encourage more people to go into education, and so we can continue to attract the best like we do right now. But we have more people going into education that are going to be highly qualified. So please pay attention to this stuff. It's very important. Even the part about the base salary, which does not direct Pine-Richland directly, but will direct us in different, or affect us in different ways. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any further reports?
I want to add something. Also, next week is the program review sessions for gifted and social studies. I attended the ones last year in math and business and found them very, very informative. A lot of community members came out, got to interact with the teachers and talk about things that they valued in these programs, and it's a wonderful experience to interact and contribute to these programs and the curriculum review process in refining and improving these programs for this curriculum review cycle.
Good recommendation. I agree.
Yes, Wednesday next week, there's morning and evening sessions, 2 sessions.
11 to 12:30, 6 to 7:30.
Thank you, Dr. B.
I'd like just to mention one thing. So we do a lot of student recognition. I'd like to recognize the staff on something, and I don't know if everyone saw it in the news or not, but it was one thing that it hits my heart personally because this one does affect my family very personally. But the Best Buddies program has opened a student store staffed by the special needs students at Pine-Richland. I don't know if you don't have anyone with special needs in your family, I don't know if you can realize the impact that this has on these kids and their lives. And when we talk about learning inside and out of the classroom, what this gives these students is a chance to feel valued over and above what they get from the daily interactions at the school, which is so far above what everyone sitting here knowing our ages, what we all experienced back in the day. This was something that would have never happened in our time, and this is one of the ways where I think our students today are far better than we were, as we've continued to progress, but the opportunities now being passed on to these kids is absolutely phenomenal. My daughter is quite excited about it when we talk to her about it. The kids I know, if you've ever read any of the stories of some of the kids with special needs that have had jobs at, say, McDonald's or wherever, there's a student, and I can't remember his name, a kid who's been working for McDonald's like 40 years. The personal value that you take in yourself by having a job every day and going out and being productive, for that to be able to be offered to these kids is fantastic. And that's a kudos to the special needs staff, to the teachers, to the students, the peers who help them, and to obviously the kids themselves. It's a wonderful experience. So I just wanted to bring that up. And if you haven't seen the article, please look it up.
Thank you, Greg. Any other updates?